Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room, a show where we demystify the DMing, GMing, and game design process by coming up with monsters, magic items, games, and all kinds of things live. Now, today we have picked a little slice of what we're going to be getting into today, but not the whole thing, not the whole picture. So we know we're going to be delving into the world of d100 horror. d100 horror systems are my favorite systems to play. I rarely get to play them, which is a tragedy. I am in the process now of trying to bully a few people into playing Mothership with me. Spencer and Michael both being on that list. Spencer will say yes, Michael will say no. Just kidding. So that's where we're headed. Now, we have a previously existing world called the Tower. We're going to probably be playing in that space. If you haven't seen those episodes, don't worry. Don't worry. We'll describe things as we come across them. This is not, the 13th Marvel movie, and you got to go back and watch the other 12. You're going to be fine.
But if you do want to go back and watch them,
at this point, I imagine anybody who watches this for more than 3 minutes immediately subscribes and then sends us money on Ko-Fi or whatever it's called.
That's a legal requirement.
It's the logistically. Yeah, we come to you
watching.
hat in hand every episode, and we say, "Did you watch 1 second? You owe us money." What is that? So we're going to be doing something in that world. We're either going to be making an adventure or doing some world building. You're kind of always doing both, but we're going to focus on one or the other. The game, the sort of system is called the Tower. Very much. We're basically going to be talking about Call of Cthulhu today, but with some additional, pulpy additions. Magic is a little bit more magical. You are just as likely to die, but your death is probably going to be cool and fun and a little bit less like, actually, the collision of the car causes you to roll a constitution save and you are unconscious and you die. It's going to be a little bit more action-oriented, I would say, than the typical D100 experience tends to be. So we have a tarot card that we drew previously. It's the Chariot. Upright, it is success, ambition, willpower, and focus. Inverted, it is forceful, directionless, aggressive. So it's either you, through willpower and skill, channeling yourself into a victorious future, or it's you sprinting as fast and as hard as you can into a brick wall and ignoring all signs that you should stop. Now, what I don't know is if we are making a faction and talking about a little corner of the world of the Tower, or if we are writing an adventure for the Tower to be set in. And that's our big cue here. Super quick rundown on the Tower. It is a semi-mythological fantasy version of our own world where shadowy secret organizations undergird all of basic daily life, and Cthulian, Lovecraftian, cosmic terrors linger at the edges of reality, and you are one of a small group of people who try to make sure that the world ends after you die of natural causes, is basically the theme. This includes quite a lot of some real club bangers. The Tower is an organization, and basically your goal in the game is to keep the Tower from showing up. If things get too hot, if too many secrets leak, if things get too desperate, the Tower shows up. And the Tower is going to create a perimeter around the Alaskan town that you're trying to protect from ice zombies. It is going to napalm the town, burn everything, salt the earth, drop a low-yield nuclear warhead in the center, and then make sure no one goes there for 100 years. That is what the Tower will do. You're trying to go in as, I believe Seekers was our term. You're trying to go in and kill the 6 people that are responsible for this happening without news breaking, without you sort of, breaching the fence, as it were. So, do we have a preference in those two directions? Is there one we like more and or less?
so when you started reading the card, I instantly had an idea for a Cthulian problem. With creating something that goes super fast and stuff like that. What's the horror wise? What comes from something going extremely fast? What do you guys think? Because I know my idea.
In horror?
Yeah, like a horrific thing that happens.
When you go fast, you go splat.
You go splat. My thought is everything you run through life quick. You're aging rapidly. That kind of stuff.
You're doing a click.
Exactly.
Oh, the Flash. The Flash does a cool thing, but when he stops, he's an old man, and people are like,
exactly.
"Oh, this is terrible!" And everybody looks at Batman, and they're like, "But you knew this would happen," and he's like, "I'm sorry."
Mm-hmm. So yeah, my thought is it's something causing. Like there's some good that comes from it. It's like no, shit's happening. You're progressing science extremely quickly too. There's a civilization that's rapidly going, but they're also burning the candle at 5 ends at the same time.
Oof, that got a lot more complicated as you kept talking.
When you
that's
started,
that's my MO.
When you started the scary fast thing, my first thought as a counterpoint to yours is, besides Splat, is the Flash going super fast and everything around him going very slowly and never getting out of that. Being stuck in like a temporal sprint. Nobody else is seeing you age or anything. They can't see you. You're too quick. So this would be somebody who gets themselves caught in this awful speed race. And they're still affecting the world, but in a way that is so unknowable to anybody else that it's magic. So
there's a Carl Urban headlines the remake of Dredd, the Judge Dredd films. And the whole principle of that film is that there's a new drug hitting the like super cities that makes your perception of time slow down infinitesimally. And this one gang leader lady who's selling the drug will, when people like betray her or fuck with her, will make them take the drug and will then skin them. So that it takes days for them to die in their own perception of time. Super fucked up. So very similar though, is that my thing is that like perception of time with speed, because I think of relativity much like you did. Somebody moving at a certain speed could get the spoilers for episode 1 of Invincible. A speedster who is perceiving time as moving extremely slowly could get his head crushed by Omni-Man and feel every horrible moment of that in extreme slow-mo in a way that's like so gross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same thing with Judge Dredd from the movie. Basically the same thing, but instead of skinning them, the gang leader dropped them from a really tall building.
Yeah.
And they had to just for infinite time watch the ground slowly come up at them.
So okay, so let's hit this. I still can't tell if we're doing a faction, a monster, or an adventure, and I think I like that. Let's just see what comes naturally, right? Sometimes you just sit down with an idea. So
that makes monsters.
We like this idea that somebody is in the upper limits of speed to the point that like time is breaking for them, right?
Yep.
And that can mean either A, that they are being trapped in time in a truly miserable way. So they're either trapped or kind of the opposite, right? They are... Spencer, you made a good point with saying, like, it is somebody affecting the world as if it is magic. The thought of something moving so quickly that you literally have no way to interact with it is the other half of this, right? So option 1 would be that somebody is trapped by it, and we can certainly do both. And option 2 is like, something is unobservable. There are phenomena that are occurring, and they are unobservable. Like, it truly appears to be magic. In the way that pretty much everything in D100 horror is not magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no,
like it.
It's not magic. It's you know something that you shouldn't, and you can upset our understanding of science and technology, but it's not like explicitly magical. In the world of the tower, it's a little bit more
There's
magical.
some magic.
Yeah, it's far more like, it's still a little bit of that. I can't remember what it is. I believe it is some sci-fi principle that like any sufficiently advanced technology is indiscernible from magic, right? Here's what we know about the world of the tower. Secrets, terrible, cosmic, brain-breaking secrets, want to be known. They are alive to some capacity in some strange way, and they can visit abilities into the world, and they are sort of like pitcher plants, right? They lure people into learning them by promising power, and then you spread it and spread it and spread it and spread it. It's like a weird virus with positive symptoms, which I think is really cool. So we like this central idea, and there is this fun horror at the center of thinking of like a speedster. So I immediately break into two things, and there's one that I just think is a little bit cooler. So the unobservable thing I think is really interesting, but I love the idea that something is like giving people speed. And this idea, the thought, right, that some people are trapped in it. That to them, the world is moving at an incredible pace, and they are unable to interact with it. Like, by the time they have turned, the person's gone, and it's been 4 days. Mm-hmm. And they are sort of having to try to interact with the world. I can imagine it being like, oh, this person's bedridden. And it's like, oh, there's like a huge illness going through this small town in Iowa. There's like 15 people, and they're in comas. And you're like, okay. And you show up and you just sit there and you're like trying to figure out what's going on. And then one of the characters just happens to be sitting in the room for like 3 hours. And you're like, you've been sitting in this room for a really long time. Go ahead and make a, like, whatever our version of perception is. Like, go ahead and make that check for me. That person's, like, foot has, it has moved. It's moving so fucking slow. But you sit there for like 45 minutes and somebody taps you on the shoulder and it scares you as you realize that you watched their hand move from this to that, but it took an hour and 10 minutes. And so every time the orderlies are coming in and like fluffing the pillow and moving the person, they're resetting their work and making it so that that person has to start all over again. And that's what's making everyone think they're in comas, is because they're constantly being reset to neutral every time a family member gives them a sip of water. They're like, don't fucking touch me, I almost hit the button. And they just get like renegotiated and put back into place, and they get a sponge bath, and the whole time they're like, son of a fucking, like, I almost got up. And so then you're like, okay, so do we need to kidnap one of these people? Like, so that they can be left alone for 9 hours to get up, slowly pick up a pencil, and write a note over the course of, like, a full fucking calendar day. So that's, like, option one that I think would be interesting. Option two would be, if we want to go world building, there is an organization that has discovered a monster or effect that does this, and they are putting it to their advantage. They're basically using it as, like, cryo sleep. Like, hey, they make it so that somebody doesn't age for 10 years by locking them in this, like, warped time. And they jump the 10 years, basically, from their own perception. They don't age very much. And they get to basically, like, swing through time in big sections.
I like the idea of it being a new faction where it's R&D. It's the group that's trying to weaponize / science-fi and all these weird goings, and this is like the intro to them. They're not good, but they're not bad. They're trying to do good.
They're making military tech. You need to decide what they're. So that's the thing. We need to decide what they're making, because if it's fucking Lockheed Martin, they're the bad guys. Like,
yeah, sorry, I say weaponized. I think a better word is to science-fi these things. They're trying to make medicine.
This is very funny because we have invented the actual arch nemesis of the tower. Like, we've invented the absolute inverse of the tower, right? And I like the idea that the tower is all about this like stable, unyielding cataclysm that comes when order is broken, and the chariot is like, whoa! Like,
Ride it out.
I kidnapped a robot and I'm gonna use its brain to do stuff. And a guy from the tower is like, what? What could you mean?
So here's what I'm thinking. Michael, for a very short sentence 10 minutes ago, said they're making monsters, which I think we've sort of settled on a little bit here, which is they are scientifying and weaponizing the magic that's sort of innate in the world. And sometimes that's probably via monsterification. Who's to say? Not us. We're not the chariot.
Well, we've talked about how one of the core mechanics of this game is your stats have a maximum where you can still look like a human. And if you break out of it, you start to move into unnatural, and it'll start just uncanny, and eventually it breaks. And so I love the idea that the very, very top of, I think our speed stat is alacrity. The top of alacrity is, hey, reality is a prison for you. Everyone. And you're just like, oh my fucking god. You also have like your knees bend the other way now. Like there's basic stuff that's creepy about it, but the main thing for you is how mentally taxing it is to just listen to everything at half speed.
I'm gonna hit you guys with a pitch here. If you look at the Rider-Waite tarot card, which I shared, and I think, Ethan, you probably have in front of you, it's a dude with a staff in a chariot, obviously, and in front of him, I believe, drawing the chariot, are two sphinxes, a white sphinx and a black sphinx. In my mind, the sphinxes, if we really want to make this tarotified, would probably be the entities that the chariot utilizes for their magic game.
Okay.
They go, the black sphinx probably only tells lies, etc. And they utilize the magics and the powers of the sphinxes to do these things. So I think if you slow somebody down, somebody else gets sped up. If you speed somebody up, somebody else gets slowed down. I don't know if the chariot necessarily knows that, or if they have any control over who gets slowed down. They only get one side of that. So your, like, hole in the fence would be, yeah, 3 people in this town are going insanely slow, and there's a tornado that keeps circling town. We don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with those problems, and that's how you discover the chariot.
For the record, this is a naming device that we've used a lot. Is my favorite is how I write Delta Green and Call of Cthulhu Adventures. Is I start with the hole in the fence, which is I come up with a big scary thing that's going on, and then I create the area around it, because that's the fun of DMing for me for the most part. And then I go, okay, what's the hole in the fence? Because our people need to have heard about it, but the military needs to not have. So it's not, and I this is something I really don't like when it's in adventure books. Adventure books always start with like, Pawtucket, Mississippi's fucking gone. And I'm like, somebody else would be involved at this point. Like, that can't be it. Like, that, it can be a lot of shit. It can't be that. And so my go-to is, what was the hole in the fence? What's the thing that 90% of people would miss, but 10% would notice, and 2% would notice and know what is going on? And I think that's an interesting one. It's like they can't control who receives the other half of this. So what are these literal? Do we want to figure out what is like? Are they sphinxes, or do these sphinxes represent something?
I think they're legit sphinxes.
So we need to figure out what a sphinx is, which is going to be cool.
We could fully bring this back to Egypt. This because the tower has been a thing since.
Oh yeah, we did our tie-in with the tower for the Bible.
I said we can do tie-ins. Let's be cautious. I know more about the Bible than I do about Egypt.
I don't know the sphinxes being good or bad or anything like that in Egyptian lore, so I'll put that out there. But I was just thinking, our hole in the wall it's Egypt. The pyramids really are like a scheme, and everyone blows off as like, no, you're crazy. It actually is.
So funny to be like, now listen, I'm gonna be very. You meet one of the big guys in the chariot is an like I don't know if it's Egyptologist. What would it be? Right?
It's an Egyptologist.
Who studies it and is like, now I want to be very clear about something. Those 3 pyramids were built by aliens. There are contemporary pyramids that were built by people. It's not all pyramids are built by aliens. It's not like the Egyptians were so back-assed they couldn't figure out pyramids. This one specific pyramid was built by aliens. It's one. It's one of the 5.
And surprisingly, the humans built the pyramids first. The aliens did it afterwards.
The aliens did it, I think, to disguise themselves with the others.
Yeah,
I just don't want this to spin out of... It's so funny to imagine a guy who's like, I just don't want this to spin out of control. And you're like, this is what you're... like, this is your thing. I think it would be very
I'm going to hit you guys with a bit of information on the Sphinx Eye. Number 1, there is an Egyptian and a Greek Sphinx.
True.
So what I'm picturing in my mind...
Which means there's a Macedonian Sphinx that they both stole.
I think that there's a black Sphinx that they got from, like, the Greek ruins, and also the white Sphinx, which they got from within one of the pyramids. And they brought them together to do their cool magic stuff. That way we're sort of crossing thresholds of mythos.
Now, I kind of want them to not be able to... I want to stick with the pattern that, people don't actually understand what they're doing. I think that that's an important part of...
yeah.
I think that's just a really important part of, like, the genre. So, I love the idea that I want these creatures to both be sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And they've just discovered that, like, if somebody walks up to the Black Sphinx and they touch it, they start to go really fast. And if they walk up to the White Sphinx and touch it, they start to go really slow. And if you then walk over and touch the other Sphinx, it cancels out whatever's happening. And that's what they do. Like, these creatures are slumbering, they don't wake, they've maybe tried to awaken them, or maybe they try to keep them from awakening. But they're constantly, like, you have to literally go up and touch it, and it begins to affect you. And they're using them. So, like, these entities are real thinking, and they're like, well, if you touch it, like, they don't understand what's going on, what it is. Either that, or it's the other angle, like the Greys and Delta Green, where it's like, no, the Sphinx are awake and they talk.
They are the chariot. That's pretty interesting.
And they're like, yeah, I don't know. Is it fun if the Sphinxes are...
It would be our first monstrous faction, like, top to bottom.
Are they...
Everybody else has some in there, but they're not led by...
So are these two... I'm imagining these two... If this is what we go with, I think both options are good. I think this one's a little out of genre, but I don't hate it. No, because, like, Shadow over Innsmouth, right? It's like the monsters are in charge. So, like... I kind of like the idea that these two are, like, outcasts. There's a classic thing in old D&D where a really scary thing happens above ground, and what has actually happened is the weakest piece of shit in the Underdark has been forced out and has immediately discovered that they are one of the strongest beings in the Prime Plane, and proceed to cause so much trouble just by rolling up with this alternate set of rules. So I kind of like the idea that these two creatures are like a ship crash landed or some shit. Like, these are unrelated. These are beings that were, like, banished from their own thing, whatever their people are, and are now here and are, like, CEOs and are, like, manipulating humanity into doing what they want with the promise of power. Or I like them being imprisoned, pissed off things that are shackled and used as batteries. And I think those are both really cool. And they're both really pulpy, so I don't really know which one to go with. Like, I feel like they both really fit the theme of the tower, which is, basically, how do Call of Cthulhu games actually go? Let's do that.
I think it's funnier to make them CEOs. I think they're in charge of this organization. They are attempting to do probably moderately good things for selfish reasons, but overall it's like, we don't want humanity to die. Who would worship us? That would be awful. So they're attempting to keep things moving in a way that benefits them.
I have a pitch of what their long game is, and it's stupid, but I like it. These two sphinxes are pulling the chariot. I love the symbolism of, there is a man in the chariot. He thinks that he is in charge because he is holding the reins. The sphinxes are pulling the chariot. They pull it where they want, when they want. I think that these two creatures are not scientists. And I think that they are trying to accelerate humanity to interstellar flight so that they can leave the planet.
Get out.
I think they're stranded and they're like, they don't know anything about science and interstellar flight. And so they're like, well, if we can just convince them to weaponize the technology of all these other things, eventually they'll stumble on interstellar flight, right? Like, there's no way they won't.
The closest they've gotten is super speed. And they're like, all right, we're getting closer.
We're getting somewhere. How do we make that speed? Okay, so two servile creatures. So two leaders. No science knowledge.
I think this might be the most dangerous organization because they're so stupidly violent when it comes to just doing stuff. They're just they're violently stupid is more what I mean to say. They're just trying. They're throwing spaghetti at the wall. Everybody else is like tactically dangerous. Oh, the librarians, they've got people that know the secrets of the universe, but they don't really use them. They try not to use them. Oh, the tower, they do tactical nukes on this town. Yeah, that town.
There are these like,
this is different.
There are these like pockets of things where it's like the tower's kind of bad. What you really don't want to see is a plane going overhead that has a call sign on the side that you don't recognize, and you start to see a little dot. That's the problem with the tower. With the library, it's, oh hey, there's like a catatonic old man in a wheelchair being pushed by a younger person. And the old man just keeps looking at people and saying something out loud, and then those people immediately die. Like, that's what you're afraid of with the library. And then it's like, oh, what are you afraid about with the chariot? Everything they do. Everything they do is so scary. Everything they do is the dumbest thing they've ever done, and it's so scary every time. It's like, yeah, no, for sure. They're the people that are like, all right, you go into the crypt of the Elder Seer. You see a crystal eye. I pull out my eye and I put the crystal in my eye socket.
Why?
No one said to do that. And they're like, it's what it does to the mural.
Right.
And you're like, fucking okay. Yeah, I guess that's what's happening.
Before we go further, Michael, go ahead.
But you know how, like, in our real life, the first man-made object to go to space is like the manhole cover.
Yeah.
I think in this world it was them just doing some shit, and
this might work.
They just blasted something. They super sped some atoms too much, and it went.
These things, number one, the chariot is our American organization. Absolutely. Yeah. They are, hey, the Manhattan Project did not happen. It was these guys, and it was an accident. They were trying to do some other shit, and they were like, you can split atoms. And the two sphinxes were like,
Who's Adam?
What? Yeah, of course. Yes, we knew you have discovered as we intended. Fucking he and she being like, I remember somebody talking about fission engines. I remember hearing those words. You must continue to explore it. This is the path, the way. Fucking hilarious.
Before we go further, I need to know, what requirements does the chariot have for inducting new members? Who shows up and they're like, you're the guy?
The horror that the chariot represents to me is that absolute fucking dipshittery crypto boy boss. Like, do you like to move fast and break things? Welcome to the Chariot. I think every time a kid at Princeton blows up a lab and kills 29 people, the Chariot fucking rolls up. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I think every time, I think there's a chance that if you accidentally do a ritual in the woods and summon a monster that then kills an entire town of hikers, there's a chance that like somebody rolls up at your door and they're like, would you like to make $210,000 a year? And you're like, yeah, I fucking would. Yeah, I super duper would.
I think that this also puts them in direct competition with the tower. They probably hack into the tower's communication systems and they're like, all right, they're getting word of somebody in Massachusetts, right outside Boston. They summoned a terrible fiend. All right, we got to go now. We got to get him. We got to get him out of there before the tower gets him. He could be ours.
Two things. Everyone say hello to Draenal.
What up?
Draenal. It says, hello, how
Sponsored
y'all
by
doing?
Drano now?
Hell yeah.
So, hello, how are y'all doing? What are y'all talking about? And before we get to
Big
that,
question.
to gamify the like requirements for joining, I think your either wisdom or intelligence can't exceed a certain amount.
If the
I
wisdom,
think neither.
yeah. You
Oh,
gotta be
intelligence
careful.
they have to recruit. They have to recruit smart people so they can
I
make
think
cool things
this
happen.
is the faction of intelligence high, wisdom low.
Wisdom low.
Knowledge.
Yeah.
It's knowledge and wisdom, I think. Knowledge and wisdom, I believe, are our stats. I have them here. I can look in a second. What are we doing? Great question. D100 Horror, Call of Cthulhu stuff. We're making a faction called the Chariot. And what the Chariot is trying to do is harness the horrors from beyond the stars, baby. They're the biggest dipshits in the world. And that's what we're locked in on today. They are at odds with a group called the Tower that is trying to bury this kind of stuff. We're gonna mostly be talking about the Chariot today. We're gonna be leaving the Tower. Go watch our other streams if you want to hear a little bit more about those beautiful boys.
Journal said, calling me a sponsor makes me forget about my perpetual poverty for a moment.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
They also said, it's dope they love Call of Cthulhu stuff.
It is, for the record,
So do we.
our stats are might, alacrity, constitution, knowledge, will, and glamour. Because to be the kind of person who thinks that you can tackle horrors from beyond the stars, you have to be self-aggrandizing and slightly insane. So we tried to kind of theme it after knightly virtues. There's also I've been working on this in the background, and I now have this like character from the 1930s that I'm obsessed with. That's like in our fiction, but we don't have time for that. So the Chariot races the tower to targets, and they have the capacity to get there first for
Super speed.
sure. And that makes sense to me that they prioritize super speed. So I no longer think that the powers come from the Sphinxes. I think that like
They found something.
I think that they strap I think that they like inject you with something and you begin to perceive time at unknowable speeds, and it's like, is this anything? Like, what are we up to? Or maybe the Sphinx's natural ability is like, maybe their people can dilate time. And that's just something they can do. Like, these are fourth dimensional, hard to understand beings. It's just that these are two 16-year-olds who crash landed on another planet, and the actual adults who knew about interstellar travel died. And so they're just stuck here like, right, we're going to figure this out. That's interesting to think about.
There. It's been 2,000 years, but maybe this year.
It's funny because it's like, oh, it's 2,000 years, but our species lives essentially infinitely. So to us, no time has passed. Like, this is a brief distraction. And I think shit like this happens. I think there have been other worlds where it's been like, oh, our ship crash landed. We can't get the materials we need to power it. So, all right, we'll awaken the locals. We will vastly accelerate them to the interstellar stage. They'll build us a new ship. We'll ride the new ship, and then they'll bomb each other into non-existence because they accelerated too fast to handle the new technology they have access to.
either they bomb each other or we have this new group that will follow us forever.
Yeah, and then usually we
Yeah.
do blow up their planet. And then a lot of the times we're like, oop, too
Years
dangerous.
later.
Boom, scary. Which I think is really quite powerful.
Dre has asked, is this a 5e reskin or its own thing?
So
thing.
it's its own thing, but if you want to know the genre of game that we're in conversation with here, Call of Cthulhu, Delta Green, these are Mothership, these are d100 systems. So instead of saying like the DC's 12, roll and add your thing, you say, okay, roll stealth. Your stealth skill is a number between 1 and 100, and you're just trying to roll under the number. Which can be a little, it's definitely an adjustment. So if you're totally unfamiliar, then just take it as like, just listen to the story beats and take that there. But if not, I do recommend these systems. They are very fun. It's usually more work at character creation, and that buys you less work in game, which is a trade-off I'm always quite happy to make.
And we've done, I think, like 15 to 20 streams developing the tower as a system and as a setting. This is a system setting. It truly is built in the world for the game that we've made. But yeah, no, it's its own thing.
Now we're just expounding upon.
So these two sphinxes
making a new faction
can dilate time. And one of them can speed time up and the other can speed time down. And if you were to ask them why, they would be like, that's how it works? You know what I mean? They're like, how do your abilities work? Yes.
I flex this
I got an
muscle that you don't have.
I really love
I
us.
got an organ in my brain.
I love us leaning into like, and if you're watching right now and you're like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. How would these people not know what to do? Grab a stranger on the street and shake them and say, how do your eyes work? How do your eyes work? And just keep shaking them until they answer. They will die first, unless you grab an optometrician or whatever the fuck. Unless you happen to grab an eye doctor, they're gonna be like, light in. Yeah, that's it. It's something like that. Okay, so one of them can give you more speed, the other can give you less. One of them tells the truth, the other one only lies. Just kidding.
Yes.
And they basically they don't run this organization, right? There is somebody driving the chariot. There is a figurehead.
Joe Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've got a pretty good breakdown of the basics here, of how they function and what they do. How big and how old? Those are my two big questions. We joked that like these are the guys that did the Manhattan Project. I think that's funny. I'm not opposed to them being like having been around since the 1940s. When did Roswell, New Mexico happen?
Like 46 or something.
Oh, really? I was hoping for like 32. I was hoping for like just before.
I could be lying. 47. I was a year off.
47. That sucks. If that was like 32, that would be perfect. Because it would be like.
It would.
I mean, have they been around for 2,000 years? And they were like, first try, guys. Build the pyramids.
No, it's
I'm
so
pretty
funny.
sure that's how our ship was built.
No, sorry, because it is so goddamn funny if these were the dudes who were like, we're gonna have to start at aqueducts. What? We're gonna have to start at aqueducts.
We're starting fresh.
We can even have them be scientists if it's like, we are scientists. Our planet is bismuth based. Yours is carbon based. We're fucking working from nothing here. Like, we're really having to get to basics. Okay. So these things are truly ancient and are like the founders of human civilization to some degree, which I think is really funny.
Dre said, Oppenheimer is an NPC. If Oppenheimer's part of this cult...
I think you can play in the tower, and if it's 1945, Oppenheimer is... What? Sorry, the dude who quoted, I am become death? Yeah, no, he's had some interactions.
Is Oppenheimer, at that period in time, the driver of the chariot, yes or no?
Yeah, of course he is.
Exactly.
Here's my...
I think we can do that with a bunch of figures throughout history.
I think my pitch would be this started as they started as like Emperor of Mankind in Warhammer 40k style, right? Guiding the hand of humanity. And their goal was just to accelerate humanity, right? And they did the best that they could. They just started moving humans forward. And then I think at some point in the 1920s or 30s, towards like late, like in the aftermath of World War One, there's this explosion of archaeology into Egypt, into these other areas. It's when we discover, it's when we start to discover, it's when people start to dig up mummies in the pyramids and stuff. It's when we start to find the theater of Dionysus again and shit like that. I think during that time, these two creatures are discovered. They've been just operating in the background the whole time. And I think they are captured. I think these two things are captured by the United States and are brought back and become the center of the Manhattan Project. And so they assign an intrepid young student, like an intrepid professor, to try to understand the technology that they are attempting to coordinate with people. And it's fucking Oppenheimer, and they invent the atom bomb as a result. I think that's what happens. And I think that all of the like American expansion of technology comes from kidnapping these two sphinxes and inventing the atomic bomb, the microwave, radios, and like 15 other things in the next 10 years.
Yep.
And I think it
so
helps
were they
explain...
locked away for... Do you think they were locked away for a while between, like, 300 AD and today? Or were they active?
I don't think they were locked away. I think it would be like dropping some random shithead in the middle of a country and being like, hey, get these guys to come up with cars. You're gonna
get these guys to come up with cars. Also, you're a horrific monster. Good luck.
Yeah, I think they were doing their best for thousands of years, and the best they could do is like get Rome big, but then they would kill each other. Okay, all right. Well, they were like, let's get Greece huge, and this is crazy, Alexander the Great. Right? Alexander the Great tries to conquer basically the world. He crosses many places, and eventually he is stricken by a terrible illness where he can't move, but he doesn't seem to be dead. They say that he's not decomposing. This is real. This is a real thing. They said that Alexander the Great didn't decompose for a couple of days, and eventually they mummified him, and there's a theory that they mummified him alive, that he actually had like locked-in syndrome, and that probably at some point before they mummified him, he died of like dehydration, but that eventually they mummified him. I think that Alexander the Great started to be like, I'm gonna tell the world, and they went, shit, boop, and froze him so he would die. And then they were like, all right, we're gonna try again. Rome made it really big. The Visigoths killed him. Okay, we're gonna give it another world. Let's do Ottoman Empire. The Holy Roman Empire, and it collapsed again. Stop collapsing! Like you keep. This is stupid.
I do need to do a quick aside. Locked-in syndrome is what I get every time we go onto the stream.
He's too locked in. He's too locked in.
I get too locked in.
So they've constantly been doing this, and then eventually they get captured, and they, and I think that if I had to pick, it wouldn't be that they got captured because like they couldn't do anything to protect themselves. They saw this well organized, and they were like, should we just let this happen and see where this goes? And they did. And then smash cut to, the world of 2029 or whatever that this game takes place in. And it's like, they are rolling. These are the guys behind AI. They're like, the computer on the ship talked to us. And that's why they're like, get them to build as many data centers as they possibly can. What about the environment? Well, you meant the environment. I said data centers. We need a ship that's smart enough to take us to our planet. And all I can do is tell it the name. Like, you know what I mean?
Environment doesn't matter if we're interstellar.
They're thinking what we need is an AI that learns upon itself with no entry. What we're thinking is, oh no, don't do that. But they're trying to get the fuck out of here. They don't care if the AI goes rogue. They're good.
Dre said, if you need to know anything about history's references, ask me. I'm going to study history in college.
Hey, nice.
Yeah, especially if they're huge on histories.
Yeah, mostly the history of like plays and stuff. But we are
Well,
Yeah.
that's history.
Or cool history.
That is
I
true.
don't
I
know
did
much
hit you with my
about
Alexander the Great
Link
locked-in
stuff.
syndrome fact. You gotta have some of those in the pocket, though. Otherwise, your life is boring. Okay, so these two creatures basically like let themselves be kidnapped, and they start to launch us into the space age. They are the secret behind the secret. Area 51 is real, and these idiots are there. It's
the idea
so
of there
good.
being like fucking Roswell, or not Roswell, like the moon landing tapes, and it cuts. But what you don't see as they turn the camera is one of the Sphinxes is walking across the moon, like, yes, one step closer. Just a bunch of grainy footage from Roswell, New Mexico, a fucking Sphinx sitting watching an alien get dissected. Like, what?
I love the idea that like that ship from like 1947, the Roswell ship crashes, and everybody's like, "There's a new ship. Bring it to the Sphinxes, my lords. What do you think of this?" And they're like, "Oh, that's our ship. It was stuck in orbit. It just the orbit must have finally decayed and it crashed. Sorry to disappoint you."
Yep.
Do
The
you know how it
Roswell-
works? Because we do not. Like,
The alien that we found in the Roswell. Oh, he's from backwater hillbilly. That technology is barely above
This-
yours.
This ship won't even get me across the freaking solar system. I'm not taking this.
truly, it would be like you being teleported back to caveman times. You have a lovable family of cavemen that you are helping survive, and one of them brings you your shattered and destroyed cell phone for you to fix. And you're just like, and what would the three of us do? We'd be like, this is a rock to me. Like, I know. Hey, you want to know what I know about this? Nothing. Like,
I bring it
nothing.
back to the smartest caveman I know, and I say, get to work.
Hey,
Get to work, buddy.
You and me working on this is about the same. It's about the same.
Take it away. See what you can figure out.
Yeah, this is really funny.
Oh yeah.
It's fu-
Dre
it's-
said.
Go ahead.
Dre was just saying. Every German tank in World War II. But don't dare ask them about the period of 1500, 1700.
See, I'm more into the 1500s, 1700s. So really, we're sort of
It
balancing
evens
out.
out.
We get there. Okay. So time dilation powers, they were taken in the 1930s. They're the center of the Manhattan Project, and they are accelerating humanity so that they can build a ship to get them off this godforsaken rock with its stupid, stupid pink ape men who keep trying to do the same dumb three things and keep killing each other. Like, they won't stop. World War II, these two were sweating. They were like, you guys have got to stop. Like, it's getting embarrassing.
I'm imagining us publishing like short expansions to the world that are all the face tarot cards.
Yeah.
So like the game is the tower, but then this is the chariot, and it's like here's another 100 pages of lore, and these people, and maybe an adventure. It sort of works perfectly that way.
Incredible framing for our future Patreon. Stay tuned. Okay. So that's the kind of there's a goofy element to this, but if we actually talk about it in fiction, it isn't, right? This is an important note about genre for those watching in the future and for our lovely viewers who are watching right now. You can write something fun and interesting and exciting that's fun to talk about and kind of silly, and then change the genre, and as long as you keep it a little light, the genre will change with you very easily, right? So this sounds really silly as we talk about right now, and it's really funny. So now let's lean back into the horror genre. All of humanity has been the experiment of two beings trying to get out of gravity. Every single story and song, every loved one, everything at the heart is these two things trying to get us to invent a ship so that they can steal it. Horrifying. Terrible experiments, all of these terrible things that have happened. It's just these two things. Always behind it, always taking another step, always moving forward, and careening humanity into the future with total disregard for our safety. Climate change begins, and they're like, and? We're on track to figure out interstellar travel in 200 years. That's going to take 300 for enough of you to be dead for it to not be possible. I think it's worth the gamble. What? Like, what?
I've got an interesting supposition here. If they can speed up organic matter, which we've established they can, and slow down organic matter, I think they probably had like a biological ship. It was something that they could manipulate to go quickly. There ain't shit like that on Earth
At all.
So that's what they're building up to. So they're like, okay, these are the things we need to construct roughly, and we need to figure out how to do that on Earth. So a biologic ship is something that we aren't even close to accomplishing. They're like, let's get the onboard system set up. That's AI. Let's get nuclear explosive power done, so that way we can power our biologic ship. So they are getting incrementally closer, but it's just such a weird thing that Earth cannot produce that they're trying to latch onto.
They're
It's a
playing
biologic
like
ship.
they're playing Civilization 4. And
Yeah.
somebody's like, "What's the biggest problem? Like, why haven't you succeeded more?" And they're like, "Your sun's not right." And you're like, "What? You don't have the right
Red.
kind of sun, and so you're never really gonna get there. But we think we can get you close enough that we can finish the rest. But we gotta get you closer first, because otherwise, I don't even know, man." And it's like, what?
Yeah,
You're like, you
this
guys
shit
don't know
won't-
about kinds of suns yet? It's like, what?
This ship will be just good enough to get us to a sun that will work.
Oh,
To the
that's
good sun.
fucked.
Then we're gonna spend another 1,000 years on that planet.
Oh, that blows.
They-
That,
there
like
had to
Super
be-
Earth and Alpha Centauri that everybody like that all of the stupid sci-fi bros cream their jeans for, and they're like, no, we're just headed there. It's super cool.
Better.
They would be so about like GMO production.
Hey, I love a GM.
Oh
farm.
yeah.
So we have this like 2,000-foot view, and keep in mind we can take a couple of weeks to keep working on this. So this is the like story of the chariot. This is how they came to be. This is very broadly what they do, with none of the details worked out. Let's take a step in. Who is the current head of the chariot? And do people know about this? I feel like the chariot needs to be a semi-secretive organization, right? Because otherwise the tower would have killed them all by now.
Yep.
Who is in charge of the chariot right now? And what are they like? What kind of person is this?
I'm gonna pitch the name Beatrice. We gotta get B in here. We did do back in Beesness.
That's so true.
So this is
And
the
it's like a
B
corporation,
in
so we're
the
getting
video.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel
No.
like. Go ahead, Michael.
Is Beatrix a mad scientist or is she calculating?
Yeah, is she science or is she CEO? Like, is she the head of a research and is, a big brain, or is she the head of talent and acquisitions?
I think we need to establish what the Sphinxes are good at. Are they truly Sphinx scientists? Because if that's the case, they don't need somebody smart. They need somebody charismatic.
I think that they need to be, for this bit to make sense, it's funny for them to be idiots. It makes the most sense for them to be scientists. And
Yes.
I think that it's a really good opportunity for us to lean on this idea of, well, why did they start so slow? Because they needed to teach the stupid dudes how to make an aquifer so that they could have the water that they need, so that they could farm. Why? So that their brains could get bigger. Unironic, like, I'm not kidding. They were like, why do we do so much farming? Like, why haven't we switched to like more of a plant-focused diet? It's like higher protein, bigger brain. These things have been guiding the diet of humanity because they just need us smarter and smarter. There's a really great interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson where he talks about how if you look at the DNA difference, the difference in the brains between chimpanzees and humans, it's like a really minor difference. But teaching chimpanzees simple math is a lifetime effort that they can barely figure out. But a toddler can figure out the basics of addition. Now imagine the alien species that is the same 1% difference that we are from them, they are from us. And that's these sphinxes. They're not 10 ahead, because then they would just figure it out. They would be like, we reorganized the atoms to make a boat. Instead, they're like, how do we make them just smart enough? Because, like, we can't go mining. We're not, like, what do you mean? Like, we
I'm
can't.
not grabbing a pickaxe. I've got cat paws.
We're not we can't make the industry. We can't replicate the industry on our home world, but we can slowly get the apes to do it. So I think that they are science.
They're absolutely science. I think what they need is a really perfect amalgam of, like, the perfect person. They are smart, they are, like, business driven, and they're charismatic.
And what
they need all those things because they can't tell people, yeah, the two sphinxes at my house are telling me how to do this. They need to be smart enough that this person has the idea. They don't, but they tell people they have the idea. And they need to be charismatic enough that they can bring people in on the project and lie to them about being the one who had the idea.
So then I think my pitch is, I think that these two sphinxes are scientists. They are scientists that study time and time dilation. And so they have what looks an awful lot like a magic fucking wand that can cast. So I don't think it's innate to them. I think that it's what they do. And so it's like, well, why don't they just build a ship? They're just not astrophysicists. Like, it's like The Martian, where the guy who gets stranded is a fucking botanist. And it's like, okay, well, that's his skill set. He can't do everything, but he can do some of the other stuff and a bunch of botany stuff. And these guys are like, we can change the rate at which things experience time consistently. The rest of it, they're like, I know enough about astrophysics to help teach the R&D department. And I can then let those people live an entire lifetime of research in 20 minutes and burn through these dudes. And that's what
what was funny? I was picturing them slowing themselves down or speeding themselves up slowing down while the scientists are doing stuff. So they go, okay, have fun, boom, cryo sleep, and they wake themselves back up 50 years later like, huh? Did it work?
That's funny. My instinct was
to them is also good.
My instinct was they don't age. Like, whatever their species is, just, what do you mean? Like, they just don't. That thing that humans have, where the end of our DNA sequence, like, slowly degrades with time, and that's why we age. They're like, no, our species figured that out. We just don't do that anymore. Yeah. So we have infinite time to get this done. And so my thought was, kind of SCP Foundation style. They're like, all right, inmate number 49357. And it's 1946. And it's like, and it's a Nazi scientist walks up and is like, I am here to help develop this thing. And they go, great. They touch him. He lives his entire life in the next 1 hour and 10 minutes of study, and he just drops dead with a stack of 55 notebooks next to him, and they hand it to the next guy, and then they touch him. And it's just
so funny.
And so it's just like, what do? They eat through. Why are we constantly at war? They constantly need new people. They need a new body.
I was picturing, like, on The Sims or Civ 5 when you click triple speed up and you just lean back and you wait. So either they're speeding the people up or they're slowing themselves down. Either way, I think it works.
I think
they probably do both.
I think
terrible people, they go, boom, but when they're like, the aquifers need to get built, boom, I'll be back in 1 year.
I think the second one makes more sense because it makes them easier to interact with. Because if they're like instant killing people by making them go through time at triple speed, I think that works. I think they can only make a person go like twice as fast as they should be able to. I don't think that they can like imprison. I think they can do the opposite. I think they can slow us to a stop. But I think as far as making somebody go faster than they should, they can only do like double speed. Because I think it makes a lot of sense.
Fall apart.
The Sphinxes stop themselves. And the people are like, if you want to speak to the masters of light and dark, you must make a prayer in the chamber and then wait 3 days. Because that's how long it takes for them to hear what you said.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that it's like metaphysical. It's not. It just takes that long for their brains to process the information, and then they unfreeze themselves and are able to
It's also why the chariot driver has to be smart. Because they say, these are the instructions, see you in 5 years. Boom.
Yeah.
And then the chariot driver comes back and is like, okay, it's 5 years. Hopefully they fucking did it. We're going to find out. Otherwise, do chariot driver, start again, give him 5 more years. We see.
Okay. So Beatrice Mayhew of the Boston Mayhews is a hyper educated, hyper proficient, and she doesn't need to be a scientist. Like, she could be a lawyer. Is hyper proficient, good at following directions, good at sticking to a schedule, and has ended up here and is now with absolutely perfect efficiency running into tomorrow and keeping this place up to pace. Her main thing is countering what the tower does. That's what she spends 95% of her doing, is just countering what the tower is up to so that they can try to get a hold of things before they do. And I like that that's what happens. These creatures are watching humanity progress, and anytime a new thing gets grabbed, they unfreeze themselves to be like, all right, show us. And, you know, because cosmic horror, this is a weird thing to say, but it's true. Cosmic horror is also cosmic horror for the stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about, like, the Hounds of Tindalos, and it's important to remember that the Hounds of Tindalos also do not understand Cthulhu. Like, it is also terrible and confusing for them. It's terrible and confusing for everybody, right? The Mygo are also like, what the fuck? Like, they are just as confused by everything going on as we are.
Show a Mygo a hound, see what happens.
And the
They're
Mygo are
not
going to be like,
time
what
together.
the fuck is that fucking thing? Yeah, they're going to be as confused as you are, which I think is really powerful. So this is this, like, hyper proficient character. What is the chariot like? What is it like to work there? Is it unpleasant? Is it pleasant? Does it pay well? Are you indentured and not allowed to leave? Or can you come and go and you just have to pretend like you have a normal job? Is it like Severance? And your job is a little tiny slice of the pie that you don't understand what you're doing. It's like, what do? I have an equation that I have been factoring out since 2009. So you've been working at this, like, how long you been working for the company? 17 years. Doing the same thing? Yeah. What for? I don't know. But every day I go in and I fill 30 more pages and I get paid $310,000 a year. And I do that every day and I have no fucking idea why. And what it is a supercomputer made up of 90 people who are crunching the numbers for a hyperdrive, and they will be for the next 300 years.
Yep.
So that's option one. And option two is prisoners. They just vanish. People who disappear, this is what happens to them. That guy who invented the car that ran on water who died, he didn't die. It looked like he died. He's there. Those are the two versions of it I can see, and I think they're both really fun.
I think a combination of both is great. I think if it's somebody who is just doing something sort of inane, discovering the answer to that equation, they are brought in, they're hired, they're smart enough that they get paid this money, they get sent home. I think that there are really intelligent enemies of the U.S. state that get brought in and they say, hey, this is an astrophysicist. We can lock him up for 40 years, or you can give us $1 million or $1 billion or whatever the Sphinx is, and you can take him. And the Sphinxes go, great, thank you. Double speed, put him in the cell. You're crunching numbers until you die. And then they put themselves back in slow motion. I think it's both.
It creates this really interesting thing where it's like, where all of these Nazi scientists get taken in. Right into the U.S. and they become like a big central part of NASA. Like NASA is run by like 1/3 Nazis, not literally, but like a notable number. And there's this question of like, where did the rest of them go? And it's like, they went to the desert.
Yep.
That's what happened, man. I don't know. They took a ride on the chariot, right? And I think that in this world, because it's not our fucking world, there's always this pressure to be like, it needs to be exactly like your world, but with little changes. And I'm like, big changes. I think there is maybe a superstition, maybe a real fear for like STEM majors in their doctoral programs. I think that like people say like, hey, relax. What? Take some time off next week. Why? You're moving too fast. You need to slow down. Why? Because otherwise, if you don't, someday I'm going to come say hi to you in your office and you're not going to be there. And when I ask the dean where you are, he's going to tell me that you got reassigned, which is a confusing thing to say about a doctoral student. Right? I think that in the world, they're like, hey, slow down. Why? You need to slow down.
Unless you're a really big jerk, and they're like, matter of fact, let me help you with that. Let me crunch some numbers for you. Get you out of here quicker.
I bet that happens because we've talked about it. It happens with the tower too, right? A kid is born speaking a language that no one around them can understand. And the doctor wordless is like, hey, there's like these like 9 symptoms are showing up. And then the head of medicine, who is 68 years old, shows up and is like, all right, I'm actually going to be taking over this. And everyone's like, what? He's like, yeah. And then a fucking APC rolls down the road. And everyone's like, what is happening? And the doctor comes out 45 minutes later and is like, this is really sad. The kid didn't make it. And they hear crying and watch a guy wearing all black with a bag, with a
sword on his hip,
walks to this like armored vehicle. And somebody's like, okay, that's really sad. And he goes, it's really unfortunate. And they all leave. And I think that that's exactly what the chariot is like, too. It's just the opposite. The chariot, the threat from the tower is, we'll kill everyone you know if you don't cooperate. The chariot doesn't fucking threaten anybody. The chariot's like, hey, do you want to never work again? Hear me out. You know what I mean?
I'll give you 500K. You start tomorrow. You say no? You're not getting 500K.
And I think if you're a crazy German scientist from the 1940s and you're like, I would never, I'm not going to do this. Fuck you. I'll just die. I'm not going to burn my candle for you. And they're like, cool. We'll give your family $1 million and it's 1945. Yeah, all right. I guess I'm going to crunch numbers in the little room. And it's like, thank you so much. You're going to have a great time. It's going to be awesome. And they just... I love the and the hole in the fence. Another great hole in the fence beyond like, hey, somebody is slow and they shouldn't be. Like, it's just something happened, something went haywire, and somebody's moving slow that shouldn't be. The other one is like some guy being like, I just got a job, and every day I go in, and there's this little ball that I thought was rubber, but it has veins. And every day I go in and I read to it. What? There's this big book. There's like I'm on volume 9 of... there's a library of them. I've barely started. And I read out loud to it every day for 8 hours. And then I go home. And this guy just has been blabbing. And you heard about it before they heard about it. And you're just like, what do you do?
I have a third hole in the fence, and this is maybe my favorite. If we've set up the tower as a boogeyman, if you are on a job and the tower shows up, you need to make yourself scarce basically immediately. If you don't, you are fucked. I think you are on a case. It goes awful. The tower shows up. The chariot gets word of this, and they send one of the speedsters out. You're there fucking with stuff, and the speedster grabs you both and brings you back to the chariot. You are now in a secure compound that you appeared at. You immediately appeared at, and you're like, oh. You're saved from the tower. You owe the chariot a favor at this point, and now you have to do a job for them because they saved you from getting blown up by a tactical nuke by the tower. It's funny. I think that's a hilarious hole.
The number one hook with the chariot is the party epically fails. They're there with, this terrible diamond that knows your mother's maiden name or whatever the hell. And you're like, yeah, no, this is a diamond that knows all the secrets in the world. And I love that. You just, as far as you're concerned, you were standing there and then you're just not there anymore. You're in a warehouse in New Jersey and you're like, no, you're in a warehouse in the middle of the desert. You take a step outside. There's 300 dudes with guns. One of them runs in, picks up the diamond of eternal knowledge, runs, hands it to a guy in a briefcase, and then somebody in a suit walks up and goes, hi, my name is Tom. And you're like,
Where are we?
We have a meeting that you have a meeting scheduled for 6:30, so just hang tight for about 15 minutes. You are guided into a break room with a vending machine and are just sort of left sitting there, just kind of nodding and looking at each other. And then Beatrice Mayhew walks in a well-heeled suit and nice shoes and is like, "Wonderful. Come with me to the conference room." And you have been swept up by the chariot. And it's the opposite. And it's weird because it's like they are so much more pleasant that it's going to be tempting to work with them until you start to realize how unbelievably bad for humanity these guys are. How unbelievably bad for humanity they are. That it's like, the tower is horrible to interact with, but you understand why they do what they do. These guys are amazing to interact with, but then the mission they send you on is like, give us the machine that makes black holes. And you're like, I don't know if I want you to have that.
How many people in the chariot do you think know about the Sphinxes?
14.
Yeah.
It's so few.
Wait.
Being in a secret society and not even knowing the secret about your secret society is hilarious to me.
We need to decide how the pyramid here works, because the other answer is everyone.
I don't think so.
Well, because we kind of framed them as
few.
I was just thinking about it because we framed them as like the idiots who go too fast, and for them being like, yeah, they're fucking dog cat humans that do what we want.
They're fine.
Shut up. It's fine. No, I think you're right. I think the answer is like more than you'd expect. I think the answer is not one. I don't think Beatrice is the only one who knows. I think that, like, if we're being honest about how big this group would have to be, I don't think it's 14. I bet it's like between 20 and 70.
Yeah.
These are heads of departments. These are heads of research sites. These are people who need to... I think some of them know that there is a big, scary room with two things inside, two statues inside that don't move. And I think that's what most of them... I think of that like 70. I think 40 or 50 of them are like, yeah, no, there's two statues in this weirdly ornate room. And I go in there and I give a progress report. And then I get, and then I go back to my office and I get, updated. They tell me I get an updated memo on what I need to work on. Because to them, it's two perfectly stationary statues of sphinxes that they just talk. They just sit in a room and talk. And they're like, I assume there's a microphone or something. And I'm like talking to somebody in another room. And in real life, they are delivering messages to the sphinxes that they just don't get for 3 days.
There's a couple workers that are probably really freaked out because they've seen the eyes move.
Yeah, I think that some people do notice and they're like, something strange is going on. And then I think there's like 12 people who are like, yeah, he and she are really on it this week. What? They won't stop. They've unlocked themselves. They've unfrozen themselves like 6 times to check in on projects. They need to fucking chill. Like, they're micromanaging. It sucks. It's so funny that for some people, these are coworkers. What do you mean? Okay, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. No, none of them know the real reason. That actually, it brings me back to one of the things I was thinking of, why they never had the CEO be a scientist. They've probably tried that before, and the scientists either A, figured out what they were doing and tried to stop them, or B, got too big an ego and started doing their own research.
I love that. I think that whenever they put a scientist in charge, the scientist either figures out what they're doing and tries to stop them, or goes on a power trip, Michael, I think is a perfect idea. I think that is hilarious that it's like, no, we've put scientists in charge like 4 or 5 times. It is such a fuck up every time. It absolutely sucks every time. Oppenheimer was the last guy that we let do it. We tried to get him to invent a rocket, and that motherfucker invented a bomb. We can't, like...
And then felt bad about it. We didn't even want him to do that.
We didn't... That's not even what we told him to do. Yeah, the thought that, like... That is really funny. Wow. We're in really good shape.
I mean,
okay.
We cooked with the chariot.
We did, and the other thing I like about it is I do think we can spend another episode on it. Like, we can start drilling down to, like, what are the departments like? What are these people... Like, we came up with, the hunt, right? Non-existential threat. What is it? It's the something
Oh,
non-existential
God.
threats. I can find it. Give me 2 seconds to pop open the Google Drive.
Dude, the fairies, the
Pixie. Yeah.
pixie.
I'll find it. Just give me 2 seconds. But so while I'm doing that, so what's the next thing? We got 9 minutes. We can totally talk about like one more thing. What's one more thing in this space that we feel like we can spend a little time learning about?
I think the physical locations of Chariot. Like, would it be there's 10 bunkers in the US and a base, and they've got research outposts in other places? Or is it, no, we have one cavernous facility at the bottom of Lake Michigan? Like, how expansive is their network?
What's the big museums in DC?
DC?
Smithsonian.
You know how like underneath is supposed to be like miles and miles of
Oh, they're
just
in
artifacts
DC under the Smithsonian.
Mhm.
So sick.
God, that
When people show up,
rules.
if they're ever in hiding, they just go Sphinx mode and they lock in.
Yeah, my
If you walk
instinct
past.
was to put them in the desert, but like then you're adding 29 hours of travel time. Are they in DC? Can I tell you, there is something so fun about like, where are they? They're under the New York Public Library.
I think that in the basement of the Smithsonian is where like the executive suite is. This is the people who know what's going on and have regular meetings with things. The desert is where they do their really, really, really dangerous testing. And the Sphinx is like, I don't want to be near that. Are you insane? I don't know what's going to happen.
I like the idea. I think the instinct to put the Sphinx in the desert is only coming around because we associate them shits with sand. Here's my
Yes.
pitch. There is a trend on social media that has always bothered me, which is people from the Appalachian Mountains pretending like there's fucking creatures. I love these stupid TikToks. I see them all the time where they're like, I live in Appalachia. And they walk up to their front door facing backwards to lock it so that they don't accidentally look outside. And they're like, I live in Appalachia, so if I hear whistling, I hide. And it's like, first of all, you have schizophrenia. You need to relax. But in this world, nope. I think because we don't want the journey to be too long, DC, and I think the Sphinxes are in an underground facility in West Virginia.
This is in Virginia.
I think they're under
Mothman, that was them.
Yeah, Mothman, that was them. Every one of those things, that was them. Sorry, man. Hey, those things that whistle at night in Appalachia, it's like, no. Stay the fuck inside. We did that,
Yeah.
and we can't find them now.
Project Comeback.
They're invisible.
What's them? We made them invisible, and it made it so that they also can't see because we didn't think about the fact that light wouldn't be able to enter their eyes. So they're just kind of roaming around.
And they're really fast.
They're
We couldn't slow
so
them down.
fast. Like, yeah, we just can't really figure that out yet. We tried to make a gun that would make them stop being invisible, and instead, well, I don't know what happened, but it didn't work. Like,
It just made them mad.
yeah, they're pissed now. So I love the idea that it's not like a 29-hour flight, but it's like, hey, there's a small airstrip outside of DC that flies to the Appalachian Mountains every 3 days. What the fuck is going on? Like, is really, really funny. And it also explains all of those, like, all the tunnels and trains and mines that were being dug at the time. Has this underscoring of it's like, why are certain presidential candidates who are so stupid that it cannot be captured with the human language trying to make our entire country back fucking coal? Like it's 1885? And it's like, well, we can't stop digging. Why? We keep having to build new facilities. The other ones keep blowing up. And it's all bullshit. It's just them needing... Nope, there was another cave-in.
Oops.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's got to be kind of the strat here. In DC, what a funny fucking thing to do.
The pyramids were their old spot, though, right? Am I crazy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I wanted to be sure. So if on another mission, this is another hole in the fence, you go into the pyramids, there's some weird ass shit in there. There's some weird stuff, and it's all connected to the chariot.
Nothing has ever so perfectly described the vibe of the tower that I fell in love with when we came up with the idea for this game, as the thought that an adventure that starts in you investigating a tourist who goes missing in one of the Great Pyramids ends with you finding two sphinxes under the Smithsonian who work for the United States government. Nothing has ever so perfectly captured why I love this fucking game idea than that. Than it being like, well, it started with us finding a scroll of papyrus, and now we're in the deep woods of Appalachia trying to hunt an invisible thing. And if we kill the invisible thing, then the chariot will let us leave. And that's what we're up to now. And it's like,
They call it the Whistler. Who the fuck has ever heard of the Whistler?
yeah, it's tough. It's a weird job. Yeah, no, this is exactly what I was looking for when we made this game. This is the dream. 'Cause like, I don't know. We had a really fun Spencer and I, quite a while ago, had a home game in Delta Green where I wrote the adventure to be about them trying to find basically like a serial killer who was trying to turn himself into a werewolf. And eventually it turned out that his grandfather was a Nazi scientist and that they had been working on a project to develop something like this. And I couldn't stop when I was writing adventures. They would always end up like that. I would always be like, yeah, but isn't it more? I don't like the trope of, we found a bad rock. I always wanted to be like, we found the bad rock and then we studied it. And it turned out that the bad rock could make proteins out of stone, and we haven't been able, and we were trying to figure out how to use that to make infinite food. And like, that's the thing that's going on in the background that you stumble into. And the tower is just that personified. It's like, hey, what if Call of Cthulhu and the world of Conan the Barbarian got like slapped together?
Because when it's just a weird rock or just a scary alien, it's like, that's the start of the story. Humanity has been around for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Are you, the rock just showed up? Of course not. What are the odds of that? The rock has always been around, and the rock has always been influencing us. And you have to find the rock and stop it from taking control of the United States government.
Yeah, it's why it's funny, two really iconic stories in this genre, right? Two Lovecrafts back to back here. Shadow over Innsmouth and The Mountains of Madness. I like Shadow over Innsmouth. I think it's interesting. Obviously, it's, dialed up in some interesting, weird stuff with him. The Mountains of Madness is like, we flew to the Arctic and we found a scary mountain with stuff under it. And it's a little boring, and they don't really influence the story very much. Shadow over Innsmouth is like, I'm a reporter. These people have been interbreeding with an ocean-bearing group that owns the universe, and we are all the cattle for them to eat someday when they decide that they want to take over the world. And I have a gun, and I'm gonna call the U.S. military. And I'm like, yeah, you fucking are. Like,
it's way
it
better.
rules. It's 30 times as cool. Yeah, it's like uncontrollably cool.
And that's the
Right.
tower, baby.
That's another little foray into the tower here. Maybe we will return to this idea next time. We will have to see. Thank you all so much for tuning in to DM Writer's Room, where we demystify the DMing, GMing, keepering, and game creation process right alongside you. If you're watching now or in the future, drop a comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us your own ideas. What pops into your head as you're hearing this? Does it draw your mind to any of the kind of non sequiturs that we're talking about here? No, do there any stories that light up for you? And I guess most importantly, would you play this game? I would. I love the idea of where it's like, oh yeah, no, it's the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense from Hellboy, but what if they were really quite a bit more irresponsible? Like, you don't think about, you're like, yeah, no, then they let the walking apocalypse solve mysteries, and he wears a trench coat, and you're like, oh, that's fun. And then you think about it for 9 seconds, and you're like, they shouldn't let him do that. Like, hey,
Why don't they just
responsible.
kill that guy?
it's so important that they not let him do that. He should be encased in lead. What do you mean? Yeah, I think it's really interesting. You can always check out on Sundays. We have Game Masters Masters of Games, a show where we try to master different games across time. And on Tuesdays, you can catch DM Writer's Room, which you are watching now. Schedule might get a little hectic here in the next little bit. I've got some stupid stuff. I did not do my due diligence to make sure I was clear, so it might end up just being you watching Michael and Spencer play for a little bit. Hopefully, it'll all work out. We're playing Overwatch, this little indie hit. I guess
you haven't heard of it.
we should count it because Overwatch 1 came out and then they came out with Overwatch 2 and then they said, oopsie, oh no, we're so sorry. We're going to come out with Overwatch 1 again. So I guess it's kind of is a new game-ish right
and
now.
I didn't know that. So really, it is indie.
So yeah, we're diving in there. And honestly, our first game was a blast. We won 6 out of 7 games, which is kind of...
7 out of 8 games.
7 out of 8 games.
We went crazy.
And the last one we didn't even want to do. Spencer just couldn't figure out how to cancel out of the thing. So my argument is it doesn't count as a loss because our hearts weren't in it. And we actually got 7 in a row, and then we had 1 with an asterisk.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's what I've got. Stay tuned to check our schedule. And I just want to say on our way out, because it's such a weird thing for me to be interested in right now. Shout out to New York City, man. Nixon 4. Let's see it happen. If you're following this, it's absolutely crazy. Donald Trump
if it
screwed
matters
it all
to Mom
up.
Donnie, it matters to me.
If it matters to Mom Donnie, it matters to me. Yeah, I just wanted to send that energy out into the universe. And I guess that's for the 3 viewers who somehow intersect with this and occasionally watching basketball. These things, they do happen. I guess on that very strange note, we will catch you on the next one. Peace out. Stay foolish.